Hello and welcome to Cultural Capital, coming to you today from the Design Museum in Kensington. I'm Nancy Durrant and I'm the Evening Standard's Arts Editor, and it has not been the greatest week for the arts because the government has announced a 4-week time delay on our reopening plans. But there is still plenty to do and see in London and we will not be deterred. This week we're taking a look at the Design Museum's new exhibition about the influential French designer Charlotte Perriand. I talked to veteran feminist art activists, the Guerrilla Girls, about their new nationwide billboard campaign for Art Night. Our thing of the week comes from the brilliant Wellcome Collection on Euston Road. And I'll be reviewing the spectacular new film of Lin Manuel-Miranda's original stage musical, In the Heights. But first, let's go downstairs. During the 20th century, Charlotte Perriand built an international reputation at a time when, in the design industry, many women were routinely overshadowed by their male collaborators. Now, except among design aficionados, not that many people know her name, something the Design Museum wants to rectify. Let's take a look at her beautiful new exhibition.
So who was Charlotte Perriand? She was one of the great designers of the 20th century, and she stands out in a field that was really dominated by male architects. It's true that Perriand is not as famous as some of her male contemporaries, partly because it was a man's world, but also because she was a great collaborator. She loved to collaborate with some of the greats, artists like Fernand Léger, the great architect Le Corbusier, the designer and engineer Jean Prouvé, and also, apart from being a collaborator, she was dealing with often interiors, and as a woman, the very idea of the interior was considered marginal to the kind of, the architecture of the male genius. So I think there were kind of cultural reasons why in the 20th century she was sometimes overshadowed by her male peers. She starts as a real die-hard modernist making tubular metal furniture. Then she starts to make very organic furniture in wood, which is heavy and free form. And for me, what she's most brilliant at, and when she really finds her voice, is that sense of harmony between the two positions, between industrial and metal furniture and crafted heavy wooden furniture. She pioneers modular storage systems in the 1950s, which now, many of us are using similar kinds of things. She pioneers a particular sense of free, flexible, open space in the interior. She hated clutter. She hated having too much stuff around. She wanted a kind of healthy, empty sense of space that you could fill with your own sense of purpose. She said, better to spend a day in the sun than a day dusting our useless objects. And I think that just sums her up brilliantly.
The exhibition opens tomorrow and runs to September the 5th. Now, nearly 40 years ago, a group of women in America, frustrated at the lack of opportunities in the art world, donned gorilla masks and started shouting about it. They've been using facts, figures, and a fat dose of humour to combat inequality ever since. I got on a Zoom with 2 of the founding members of the Guerrilla Girls to find out more about their new big UK project.
We've been thinking about how women have been portrayed in the history of European and US art. And so often they're naked, and then that gets kind of aestheticized to be, oh, isn't that a nice pile of flesh? Isn't she beautiful? You start to look in the paintings and they are being acted upon in many ways that are often violent. They're being harassed, they're being abducted, they're being seduced. So we would like to encourage a deeper understanding of Western art by having people consider, what is happening to the woman in a painting? And what does that say about our culture at large? If abuse and violence, are continuing themes in art, well, maybe there are continuing themes in our lives.
And how is that part of the project going to manifest itself?
So besides the billboard, we are doing this website, themalegrays.com. And on that website will be all these different sections, like bad male behavior through the ages, flesh through the ages, a bunch of places where people can comment. They'll have a big interactive part too. So that's a big part of the project in addition to the billboard, because the billboard has one kind of information. There'll be a whole lot more information in the Guerrilla Girls style of kind of twisting issues around and presenting them in a way that hasn't exactly been seen that way before.
What's very good about our image is that when you look at our masks, you think of what we stand for, and we stand for the conscience of the art world.
How is the art world doing re-women right now, in your view?
Well, the art world's playing catch up with women artists and artists of color, because they realize now that essentially a lot of the stuff they collected was just stuff from kings and queens and wealthy people, what wealthy people bought. And it wasn't the real story of our culture. And now it's time to cast a wide net and preserve what's really going on now, which is an incredible explosion of all kinds of creativity.
And how optimistic do you feel about that?
Well, every time something gets better, something else gets worse. And yes, museums are showing women and artists of color and realizing that they're part of the history of art. But in the meantime, art has become this instrument of hypercapitalism. If museums, especially in the US, have to depend on philanthropists to run them, well, then they're going to run on the values of super rich people rather than the public. And it sort of tells you something about the deeper values of our culture if art gets reduced to the production of super valuable objects.
Art Night starts today and runs to July the 18th. Now it's the moment you've all been waiting for. It's Thing of the Week.
We're here in the Wellcome Collection, and this is our cabinet of treasures. Some of them are for good luck. Some of them are to help you deflect and fend off evil. You can visit the entire world, really, and you can dip into the history of humanity. All our fears, our concerns, our hopes are kind of embedded in these tiny objects. Over here we have a little piece of jewellery, something that's designed to be worn close to you, and it's just an open palm. This symbol here is known in different cultures as variously the Hand of Fatima in Islam, the Hand of Miriam in Judaism, and this symbol is also prevalent in Hindu and Buddhist religion. So it really does span the globe.
Before he became Mr. Hamilton and one of the most successful writers on the planet, Lin Manuel-Miranda wrote a gorgeous musical romance about a boy and a girl in a predominantly Latino New York neighborhood, learning to love each other and the place that they call home, just as the developers are beginning to circle.
Lights up on Washington Heights, up at the break of day. I wake up and I got this little punk I gotta chase away. Pop the grate at the crack of dawn, sing while I wipe down the awning. Hey y'all, good morning.
Ice cold piragua, cherry, strawberry, and just for today I got my mate.
It's a story of a block that was disappearing.
The genius is back!
Yo, here's your chance, ask her out right now. Hey!
There's something on your shirt.
Smooth operator, all damn.
That show, which was first drafted in 1999 when Miranda was still at college, went on to become a hit on Broadway and tour all over the world. And now this adaptation, directed by John Chu and with a screenplay by Miranda's original collaborator, Chiara Alegria Hudes, looks like being yet another juggernaut. The key to Miranda's story is that though it's got classic musical elements, a rather sweet love story between the Washington Heights bodega owner Uznavi and the aspiring fashion designer Vanessa, and a message of following your own dreams rather than those of other people, it's also a story about gentrification in New York and the limited opportunity for people of colour in America, and the sheer grinding graft they have to keep at just to get by.
If you work hard, you live by the rules, the money will come, the things will come.
You ready?
I've been saving up all my pennies in my piggy bank.
If that makes it sound grim, it absolutely isn't. The musical numbers are epic. Busby Berkeley in a sweaty, sweltering New York summer, and the characters are hugely appealing. The cast is led by the newcomer Anthony Ramos, who might have maybe the best Hollywood smile since Julia Roberts. Pleasing to me specifically is that there are also numerous shots of incredible looking food, which left me immediately wanting to get down to Paladar and Elephant and Castle and scoff my way around South America. It's a rarity on film to see Latino characters in a context free of violence, and there's none here. Just a community of broadly good people getting by and trying to enjoy life while occasionally bursting into song, which somehow seems perfectly reasonable in this context. Since the film's release in the US, Miranda and Chu have apologised for the lack of visible Afro-Latino characters, which Miranda said fell short in trying to paint a picture of the community. That acknowledged shortcoming aside, and the fact that at 2 hours and 23 minutes it is far too long, this is an absolute treat. Just make sure you've got a big dinner booked afterwards. In the Heights is in cinemas from today. Thanks so much for watching Cultural Capital. As ever, give us a like, don't forget to subscribe, and be nice to us in the comments. We'll be back next week.